This is Andy Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Matchroom's Frank Smith here in Florida. Frank, always a pleasure. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Enjoying some sunshine. Sitting out in that sun, it makes you a lot happier spending days in the sun than in the rain of the UK, doesn't it?
I take it you're not going to be in any rush to shoot back for Joe Apatow versus Jordan Thompson next week, then?
I'll just get back there Saturday morning, just as little time in the rain as possible, and I'm happy. That's the key to life, isn't it? I think spending your time in Orlando, the Caribe Royale. Come on down. If you quote Frank Smith, you get 4% off on your booking.
I don't want to be saying that, Frank. Everyone's going to be turning up just to see you. But yeah, here we are, the Caribe Royale in Florida, and the return of Conor Benn's been the biggest talking point of the day. Obviously, a lot of discussion whether people feel it's right or wrong. Obviously, a lot of talk about the case ongoing with UKAD and British Boxing Board of Control. But just from your stance, Frank, just walk me through the process of getting him back onto this card here in Florida.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's been something that we've been discussing for a while, is his comeback, ever since he was cleared and his suspension was lifted by the National Anti-Doping Panel, I think back in July. The plan was always to get him a comeback fight, because he was never going to go straight back into a big, testing fight after 18 months out of the ring. So it was always our plan to do this. And we've been through stringent processes to make this happen this week, along with the ABC, which is essentially...
Frog going off or something there.
It was a bit strange. Along with the ABC, who are essentially like the governing body of the boxing across the US, like the sort of senior, because every state has their own commission, but the ABC work across all the states. So with the ABC, the Texas Commission, who Conor's licensed with, and the Florida Commission, where obviously the event's taking place, we've gone through stringent processes to make this happen. He's cleared to box. He's free to fight. There's no date set for the appeal, and what do you want him to do? He went down the route of clearing his name with the WBC, right? What people asked him to. Then he went to the National Anti-Doping Panel, which handles these cases for UKAD and the BBFC. He was cleared. They've decided to appeal. That appeal process could go on and on and on and on. So, what do you want him to do? Sit and wait? Like, he's done everything people have asked of him, and it's never ending. And he's free to fight. So the focus for us was, after 18 months out of the ring, he needs to get back boxing. He needs to get back making money. None of us can sort of go through what he's been through or understand what he's been through. And look, I think the reality is, looking at social media, people aren't going to be happy. Like, that's the truth. And whether that's today or 6 months' time or 5 years' time, there's always going to be people who have their set mentality, but don't understand the process that's been, taken.
What did any of the Florida Commission, the board, anybody else who you've had to go through to get this fight on, the Texas Commission, obviously because of Conor's licence, what have all of those guys said about Conor's return? Was there a reluctance? What were their comments towards Matchroom about Conor returning here?
No, look, he's been tested multiple times during his camp. One of them was at the request of the commission for him to be able to have his suspension, because when he was suspended by the British Boxing Board of Control, or UKAD at the time, he was then had a suspension here. Once that was lifted, he was free to fight. They asked for an additional test as well, which he did, and they spoke to the British Boxing Board of Control as well. They had conversations with the British Boxing Board of Control. I think they've come out and made statements. I think the ABC, I've seen some reports saying, he's been out, he's cleared his name, and he's been out for so long. What do you want him to do? That was a statement not from us, from the ABC.
That was something I was going to bring up, Frank, because I've seen that as well. Regardless of whether you think Conor's innocent or not, is that an acceptable reasoning for them to give for allowing Conor to return?
Yeah, because they understand the process he's been through to get to this point. The multiple processes, the multiple routes he's gone down to get to this point. I could keep saying, something could happen to me or you and we all get cleared, and then it's like, actually, I don't quite believe it. So where does it stop? He got cleared on multiple levels. He did what people asked. Even after the WBC thing, we felt that was clearance. People then pushed him. He had to go and deal with the British Boxing Board Control piece. He won that. So look, people aren't going to be happy. I understand that, but I don't think people will be happy, even if he Even if he subsequently wins the appeal, if that's in 6 months, 9 months, whenever that is, people are still going to have the same mentality. That's just the reality of it.
Obviously, the word cleared's been the main word thrown about today. Frank, has Conor been cleared of a reason as to why Clomiphene might have been in his system, as to whether he'd taken it intentionally or not?
He's been cleared by the parties whose job it is to decide whether he's cleared to box or not. That's the reality of the situation, by both the WBC and by the NADP. I'm not going. The NADP even came out and said they can't go into any detail of the case because of the confidentiality. The National Anti-Doping Panel said that. So again, I'm not going. But this is what's frustrating. You get people whose job it is, who are experts within this field, right? Who are there to make a decision. Not me. I don't know. Just like I don't think you probably know about it. I don't know about it. Like, it's not our world. It's not our field. People who are experts within this field have made a decision, and he's cleared to box. Like, what more do you want him to do? But because Dave on Twitter from Scunthorpe doesn't agree with it because he knows one of the facts, or he's listened to a Simon Jordan interview, it is what it is.
Why announce him so late onto the card?
Because there were certain things we were working on. I think Eddie may have said it in your interview. Obviously, one of the tests we were waiting to come back, which was the final piece of the puzzle, and that was the key bit. And like I say, we want a safe sport, and once they asked for that as well, we made sure it was done.
How much VADA testing has Conor been through, say, over this last year or so?
He's had multiple tests. Again, it's not. The thing is with VADA testing, it's random as well. We don't ring VADA and go, pop down there. Like, it's not for us to decide when, whether it was the WBC clean boxing program, whether it's a VADA test in a lead up to a fight. It's up to VADA to decide, just like UCAD do. I don't ring UCAD and go, excuse me, mate, got a show this weekend, and on Thursday could you pop down and test him? It's not how it works. Do you get where I'm coming from? But he's had multiple tests in the lead up to this fight.
Obviously, I know that you guys use drug-free sport, have started to use it more recently, but moving forwards, is VADA going to be the preferred drug testing agency that you look to use? Yeah,
I think Eddie's gone into quite a lot of detail of it around how much we're using it in all of our shows moving forward across. Look, the reality is for 6, 8 rounders, sometimes you're not going to do it for every fight. It's cost prohibitive to do it for every fight. That's just the reality of it. I think the key is that I would like to look at, and I know Eddie's mentioned around this sort of testing pool. I think the best thing is around, you have some fighters who get to 15-0 have never been tested. That's just the truth. UCAD, I think, did 368 tests, or a number like that. That doesn't count people getting tested twice. And then you got tests on fight night as well, where we actually pay for the UCAD tests on fight night as well. So for us, it's about trying to put measures in place, to make the sport, and whether that means additional VADA random testing for the smaller fights as well on the shows. That's another way to look at it as well, because at least fighters are then getting tested. And again, I'm not going to sit there and say, look at the fight card and go, let's do it for that 6 round. Maybe we look at a random way of doing it that way as well, and we pick 3 fighters, 4 fighters on the lower end of the card that get tested. It's something to think about.
Just slightly but somewhat away and still linked with Conor, what did you make of the Eubank Jr-Smith having no VADA testing or form of external drug testing in place for that fight outside of UCAD?
Look, it's just people don't want to spend the money. That's all it is. Look, everyone's gets on their high horse and pushes the narrative and the agenda they want to push, right? But when it comes to that fight, it's a massive pay-per-view fight. It should have VADA testing. Nothing against the fighters, because they're two great athletes. I've been tested a number of times throughout their career, but it should have VADA testing. We want, you can all sit there and say we want to make the sport safer, but you have to back your words up. But again, nothing really surprises me with these people. Everyone's got their agenda, just like BOXXER, Ben Shalom would sit there and go, Conor Benn shouldn't fight until he's cleared, Conor Benn, blah, 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 blah. He's trying to make offers to make the Eubank Benn fight, indirectly behind our backs. So just decide what you want to do. Which side are you on? We can all... Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend promoters don't have their narratives and, push their messaging. But, decide what you want. Are you going to sit in an interview and say he shouldn't be boxing, which you have done on multiple occasions? while trying to make the fight at the same time.
Would BOXXER have any form of involvement in a potential Eubank Benn fight? Because Eubank's obviously with Wasserman, even though he's a network free agent, a broadcast free agent, Conor Benn being with yourselves, where do BOXXER fit into that dynamic?
Desperation. Like, he's clasping at straws. You know, we got a contract with Conor Benn. We've been with Conor Benn since day one, and we've been through a lot together now. You know, and he's going, but people within their organisation or acting on their behalf, trying to make that fight. So I don't know. Look, I have a great relationship with Callis and have done for a long time. As you say, Chris has got a contract with Wasserman Boxing, and we'll work as hard as we can to make that fight happen. It's the natural fight. You know, they can all, both sides. Look, there's other fights for both of them. There's other good, but nothing comes close. So this is just the truth. You can't hide away from that. You can't play a game. It's just, this is the biggest fight out there. But yeah, it's just people desperate, trying to, they need to deliver big fights.
I know Eddie said that he sees Eubank Jr-Benn taking place at Wembley, provided obviously that could be licensed by the board. Do you believe it's big enough for Wembley Stadium in December?
Yeah, for sure. I actually, though, prefer an indoor venue because it would be freezing and we wouldn't be able to wear our shorts. Look, Cardiff's an option as well we're looking at. I believe it's a massive fight wherever it takes place, though. Whether it's in the UK, whether it's international, I believe people travel for it. I think it's a huge event. We all know how big the first one was that subsequently didn't happen. So, I think it's probably one of the biggest fights in British boxing.
No, you've got Bam and Sonny due to take place on the 16th. The week before, there's obviously a lot of talk about Prograis Haney landing on that date. Realistically speaking, that would leave either the 2nd or 23rd. Do you expect maybe more so towards the 23rd of December if you was to see it?
I think so. I think that's the more likely date. I mean, looking at time frames as well. You know, the 2nd's 9-10 weeks away from this weekend. It doesn't give you much time. And I think for a fight of this magnitude, it would be great to have the build-up time. And look, there's still work. The reality is, there's work to be done on a deal. I think first things first, we had to show that Conor Benn was free to fight and clear to fight. That was always the first focus, because there was definitely doubts in people's minds as to his ability to box. So sometimes when you're having discussions with people saying we want to make this huge fight, and they're like, wait a minute, can he even box? You know, this shows that he's free to box. He's cleared. But yeah, December 23rd is a potential date we're looking at for it.
What do you expect to see from Conor this weekend? Do you expect to see that ring rust?
Look, I've seen him in the gym. He looks in tremendous shape. He's trained very, very hard. He's never been out of the gym. I think we're going to see a devastating performance. I think you're going to see a lot of a lot of the anger maybe of the last 12 months and frustrations come out. And I think that's why one of the key reasons it's important to have this fight as well. You know, because it will take a lot of pressure off of him.
Moving away from all talk Conor Benn, Eubank Jr, and of course his return this weekend. Just want to get your thoughts on a few other things. Obviously, Jessica McCaskill, Sandy Ryan, a great fight on Saturday night. It's no secret, a few weeks back, Jessica McCaskill had a few choice words over social media. What is that relationship like now? What's it been like being in and around her and her team during fight week?
I thought they were there now. No, look, we're big boys. We're grown ups, aren't we? You know, it's people say things that they subsequently apologise for, which they did, and I'm sure regret saying. You just have to move on. At the end of the day, we're looking forward to an exciting fight between, Jessica McCaskill's done tremendous things in the sport, but Sandy Ryan's also the story she had, the comeback she's had as well, from that early loss as well in her career. But she's always wanted to challenge herself, and I think it's going to be a great fight. So, these things, albeit it's not what you want to hear, you're not sitting there going, "Oh, great, lovely," just what, but they apologise. They know they did what she said something she shouldn't have said. And I just think we have to focus on the fight, and focus on delivering a good fight.
Frank, there's a new entity in Saudi Arabian boxing. Have you guys had any conversations with Turki Al-Sheikh to see where things might lie with a potential fight with any of your guys?
Not with Turki Al-Sheikh personally. Look, I know he's a huge fan of boxing. I think I believe they were actually the first. It was GEA and Seller were the first people to actually bring boxing to Saudi years ago with the World Boxing Super Series. I know he's, like I say, massive fan of the sport. I'm sure we can. We delivered some great events there in the past, and I'm sure we can do something in the future for sure. So let's see. But looking forward to Fury and Ngannou. You know, look, everyone's had their view on it. At the end of the day, I've always said it's going to be a massive event, and that's what it is. It's an event. It's going to have a lot of eyeballs on it. But good luck to them with that, and yeah, hopefully we can do something in the future for sure.
What's your understanding of where things stand with Skills Challenge and their involvement within boxing? Because there's been a few reports that maybe they might take a back seat now.
Yeah, look, as far as I understand, I believe that's the outlook now. You know, look, it's hard. Essentially, it's led by the government in terms of events delivery, and there's individual organisations. But like I say, the GEA and Seller have delivered a number of events over the years. You know, and they've always been active in sport. I think they've delivered some of the massive football events that have gone there as well. You know, around the La Liga deal as well. So yeah, but as far as I understand, that's how it looks right now. Look, we've had a great relationship with Skill Challenge and delivered some massive events. So it doesn't take anything away from that. And as always, we just want to deliver massive events, and you know, we want to have good relationships with people, and I'm sure we'll continue to do that on all sides.
With that taken into consideration, Frank, would you say it's more likely now we do not get Joshua Wilder, instead we get AJ out in December against one of those previously mentioned, saying Andi Ruiz or Filip Hrgović or another top 10 heavyweight?
Yeah, honestly, I think Joshua Wilder next is unrealistic at the minute as we sit here. But at the same time, in boxing, I just think maybe it's sometimes good not to say anything and just sit there and wait and see what happens, because every single day seems to change your view on things. So I'm confident, though, the fight happens at some point. I believe both of them want it. It's just about making a deal that makes sense.
Dalton Smith, Azim, walk me through that offer, Frank. Obviously, we've seen it's not being accepted. So yeah, what prompted that offer?
I can't believe it. They didn't even email me and say they didn't accept it.
You just saw Azim's fight for the European title announced.
Yeah, they didn't even say thanks very much, but no thank you. Normally that's the way you do it. But it's happened every time we sent them an offer. We did that same for Natasha Jonas as well. Didn't get a response. But I saw some clips of Shane McGuigan and Azim saying, "Oh, it was publicity stunt." I promise you, it wasn't a publicity stunt. Like, we want to deliver it. We think it's a great fight. Yes, I'm sure in time it could be bigger. Sometimes, though, when people say it could be bigger in time, they don't actually happen, do they? Or they happen after they should happen. So that's why we made a great offer. And he said, "Oh, don't think Dalton Smith even knew about the offer." Yes, he did. Dalton Smith is up for the fight. Dalton Smith wants a big fight, you know, in terms of, and it will bring eyeballs even now. It will bring eyeballs. You know, look, out of all of the boxers BOXXER promote, no one's had as many eyeballs as Azim. He's been chosen as like their golden child. You know, everyone else has sort of been left in the darkness behind Azim. So yeah, it was a real offer. It wasn't a publicity stunt. And now we go to work and see what other fights we deliver for Dalton Smith. We're focused on the Dalton Smith business, but like, there's no harm in making an offer for a fight. I don't understand. It's kind of like people view as, oh, it was a stunt. No, it wasn't. It was just, would you like to do this fight? You say you want to work with other people. Would you like to do this fight? It was a great offer. And I think the McGuigans, like, you know, they had to push to find out about it, about the detail of the offer, you know. And like I say, maybe in time it happens. Maybe it's huge. Maybe we see it like, maybe what happened with Brooke Khan, it happens too late. Who knows? So it's not like, there's never like a perfect time. You know, it's hard. You can't sit here today and go, shouldn't have done that, it was too early. Yeah, I'm sure it can keep building, but it could also miss out and not happen.
Prograis Haney, what can you fill us in on the latest? Is that the big fight which is due to have an official announcement this week, Frank?
It's a fight that is nearly done. There was a few things around the dates, location, etc. We're not far off. We're not far off from that fight being done. You know, it'll be a massive show. And I expect some news on it soon, just waiting on a few last bits, but we're not far off.
Is it the big fight we can expect an announcement on this week that Eddie's alluded to?
I don't know, maybe he's working on something different. We don't talk very often anymore. He's got his own, like, he makes his own plan. I do my own deals, and then we surprise each other, because I don't tell him anything because he'll just say it in the interview. So maybe he's working on something else.
Yeah, very good at hide your poker face there, Frank. Just moving away from that one, obviously, Bam and Sonny press conference tomorrow. Expect to be a little bit fiery between the pair of them.
Yeah, no, look, Sonny is entertaining. You know, Bam's a little bit more quiet than Sonny, obviously, as we all know. Most people are.
Do you think that, like, Sonny could pull that out of him in this fight?
I think he'll wind him up. Like, Sonny has the ability. I've always said to Sonny, even before we promote Sonny, I was like, you really used to wind me up on social media. but it's part of what's got him. Like, he's done amazing. When you look at like the weight division he's in and what he's built and the persona he's built and the audience, is because of his character. And he's an entertaining and interesting character. And I think he's going to wind him up in the build-up to this fight. But it's what we want to see in terms of we want a good build-up. And, we're doing this. Bam's coming over to the UK as well. We're filming now. Face-off show as well. Look, it's going to be a big build-up to this fight because it deserves it. It's a massive fight. When we announced it, it had a huge reception. But yeah, it would be good to get the two of them together for the first time tomorrow.
And Frank, just final on, I've seen Oscar De La Hoya said that he would like to try and make Jaime Munguia versus John Ryder or Chris Eubank Jr. next, just on the John Ryder front, a fight which we could see.
Yeah, no, look, I had a conversation with Eric Gomez 2 days ago. I've been speaking to Eric Gomez quite a lot. Obviously looked at the Berlanga fight as well, didn't we? Which is looking unlikely with Munguia, but I'm very confident that we can make that fight happen. Yeah, I think it's a really good fight, and I think John Ryder beats Jaime Munguia. I think he's John Ryder's a tough fighter, but respect to Jaime Munguia as well for looking to take those kind of fights, and I think he needs to now as well. He had a hard fight in his last one against Derevyanchenko. I think this is the next step, and I think he'll get a lot of respect for either of those names. Obviously, our focus is to try and make the John Ryder fight.
Right, Frank, it's a pleasure as always. I'm leaving you now to go and crack on with more important business when speaking to me. So I'll see you around this fight week, and thanks for speaking to me in Boxing News.
Cheers, mate. Good to see you.